Iwo Jima is one of the most known battles of the Second World War. Images of the gruesome battle were headlined over every major newspaper in America. Many people know the famous picture that was taken atop of Mount Suribachi and the basic facts associated with the battle. However, the rest of the details still remain unknown by most. Many people don't even realize the significance of this hard-fought battle, which claimed the lives of almost 30,000 people. The Battle of Iwo Jima was a major turning point not only in the Pacific Theater, but also in journalism and advertising in the United States, which now has taken a global effect. It was a major turning point in the world's history. The photographs taken on Iwo Jima would soon become global icons and change the way that people look at the Second World War. This is the story of the Battle for Iwo Jima. Aerial bombardments of the island began 9 months before the battle. At that point, it was decided that an island was needed in the Pacific that was close enough to Japan for the Air Force's B-29 bombing missions. Iwo Jima is located only 750 miles from Japan, which made it close enough for the B-29s to have a secure emergency landing area. The island was only 8 square miles. Small, however, it contained 2 airfields as well as another that was nearly finished with construction. General Curtis LeMay was in charge of the bombing missions and felt he needed Iwo Jima as a strategic point for the possible invasion of Japan. However, he would have to convince the Navy of the strategic importance of this tiny island. He would later tell the Navy that, without Iwo Jima, I cannot bomb Japan effectively. This would convince the Navy that they had to take Iwo Jima, and they made plans to invade the island in February of 1945.
February 19th, 1945. D-Day. The invasion began at 9 a.m. and was led by a wave of amphibious landing vehicles with Marines from the 4th, 5th, and other Marine divisions. 20,000 Imperial soldiers defended the island for Japan, waiting in a system of tunnels, caves, and bomb shelters scattered about the island. The Japanese had in place several artillery positions within the side of Suribachi, as well as other areas of the island. The Japanese were not going to give up this fight easily. They were told to follow the Bushido Code, to fight to the death. The first waves of Marines finally landed on the beach that February morning and were ready for a long and tough battle. The main objective was assigned to the 5th Marines, which was to isolate Mount Suribachi. The 4th Marines had their own objective as well. They needed to capture the Japanese stronghold at the quarry. The objectives were both completed on the day of the landing. 1/3 of Iwo Jima had been taken by the Marines that day. The 28th and 5th Marines eventually captured the Japanese stronghold at Mount Suribachi on the 23rd of February. The Americans slowly gained control of the island. On the 24th of February, the 3rd Marines entered the fight with the goal to secure the center portion of Iwo Jima. However, this objective would be a slow, painful struggle. Once Mount Suribachi was captured, General Kuribayashi, the Japanese commander, concentrated a majority of the Japanese army on the central and northern parts of the war-torn island. The 3rd Marines encountered heavy resistance in an attempt to capture the 2nd airfield. Eventually, the entire island was taken over. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th Marine Divisions reached the northern beaches on March 10th of 1945. The island was fully secured on March 26th. In the 36 days of battle, 6,800 American lives were lost, with over 26,000 American casualties in total. 27 Medal of Honors were awarded to soldiers and sailors on Iwo Jima during the battle. Of the 20,000 Japanese defenders on the island, only 1,083 Japanese soldiers survived the battle. This made Iwo Jima one of the bloodiest battles of World War II.
On the morning of February 23rd, 40 men from 3rd Platoon of Easy Company and the 28th Marines assembled at the base of Mount Suribachi at 8 a.m. to raise the first U.S. flag, which measured 54 by 28 inches. This flag was obtained from the attack transport USS Missoula. The group of Marines encountered no resistance on the way up the mountain, and 6 men were brought over to raise the first flag. First Lieutenant Harold Shire, Corporal Charles W. Lindbergh, Platoon Sergeant Ernest Thomas, Sergeant Hank Hansen, Private Raymond Jacobs, and Private First Class James Michaels. They hoisted the flag at 10:20 a.m. on a steel pipe atop Mount Suribachi. This was the first time a flag was raised over Japanese territory. This event was photographed by Sergeant Lou Lowry. However, this wouldn't be the one that made headlines because 3 hours later, a second patrol was sent to raise another larger flag, which measured 96 by 54 inches. This flag raising was photographed by Joe Rosenthal, who nearly missed the shot. Luckily, he turned around and captured a 1/400th of a second that would become an iconic part of our nation's history. It was the perfect picture, the perfect amount of light, the perfect angle. It was the picture that won the war.
Using new wireless communications technology, Rosenthal's photo raising the flag on Iwo Jima was transmitted to a Navy ship and back home within 17 hours. It proceeded to become one of the most reproduced images of all time. 135 million 3-cent stamps featuring the photo were issued, and the image was widely used to market the 7th War Bond Drive. It raised the modern-day equivalent of $3 billion. Once this picture was sent out, the 6 men, Franklin Sousley, Michael Strank, Harlan Block, Reen Gagnon, Ira Hayes, and John Bradley became instant heroes. However, not all of these soldiers could receive the fame that they had deserved from this event. The 6 soldiers had to return to combat, and 3, Strank, Block, and Sousley, were killed in the following combat that took place after flag raising. The survivors were then sent home after the battle to take part in a public outreach effort for the war. Unable to adjust to civilian life, Ira Hayes eventually turned to alcohol and died in 1955. Gagnon arrived at the same fate of alcoholism, dying in 1978. John Bradley largely kept quiet after the war, granting only one interview in 1985. He lived a relatively quiet life, not often speaking of his contribution to flag raising, and died at the age of 70 in 1994. Despite the passing of all the participants, the image is still invoked today as a symbol of patriotism and service to the nation. It is inspired both the Marine Corps Monument near Arlington National Cemetery, as well as the Iwo Jima Memorial in New Britain. Also in its legacy are various films, ranging from 1949's Sands of Iwo Jima to 2006's Flags of Our Fathers. All this exposure has cemented the Battle of Iwo Jima's legacy in the minds of the American people.
The way the photograph captured so much of the essence of a large struggle of many Americans working together, and then reaching that ability to kind of put the American flag had a significant impact in terms of buoying people's spirit. This was near the end of a long war. Tens and tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers had already perished. There was the concern that this would continue, and certainly in the Pacific, moving forward. And so I think it did have an important aspect on the home front. In many ways, the image has a powerful effect today. It's lasting legacy certainly for the U.S. Marines in terms of how they see, how they remember, and memory becomes such an important part of history and the way national memories are formed. It had a very important role in shaping a national memory of the war in the Pacific, and for Marine officers and men of the Marines, it had a very important aspect in kind of symbolizing the entire struggle of all the military, but I think in a special way for U.S. Marines because of that. So the reason we still talk about it, the reason there are sometimes movies about it, and there's a couple of recent books about the flag raising, is because it's still such a powerful and iconic image that had an effect both in the home front in 1945 and continues to resonate in our memories of World War II today.
The Battle of Iwo Jima turned the tides of the war in the Pacific Theater. It was part of the end of the island hopping campaign that claimed the lives of thousands during the war. This gave the United States a safe landing area for the B-29 bombing missions in Japanese territory. There was finally an end in sight for the war. Morale of the Marines and countless other soldiers was boosted by the news that came from Iwo Jima. It gave the Marines the final push they needed to take Okinawa, get within striking distance of the Japanese mainland, and give the United States the tools it needed to drop the atomic bombs on Japan. Then there was the photograph. It's what helped win the war. The flag raisers that participated in the war bond drives helped raise money to fund the war efforts on both the Pacific and European fronts. It helped bring hope to those on the home front, cementing a lasting legacy in the minds of American people by symbolizing the triumph and sacrifice of the men fighting on the island. This can be seen through the many memorials that have been made based on it today, whether it's the Marine Corps Memorial in Washington, D.C., or the Iwo Jima Memorial in New Britain. The photograph has also served as a reminder to the patriotism and heroism that our servicemen and women have done. This has also served as a monument to those that never made it back, and continues to carry on their legacy, bringing an essence of hope to the hearts and minds of many during such tragic times, such as the events that have become known as the Second World War.